This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. We all have some stuff going on physically from time to time, and sometimes it gets the best of us. Maybe it's chronic back pain, maybe it's knee pain, maybe it's joint pain. I've learned through this gentleman that there is a modality that can help free you of that pain, and remarkably learned that a lot of this is a habit of tension. We hold on to a lot in our bodies. Tension, stress, comes from anxiety as well. We're going to learn more about that today, and also a couple of maybe techniques that you can do to even free yourself to feel better. He is a neuromuscular and rehabilitation specialist, and he's back with us. Travis Chastain is on the program. How are you doing today?
Steve, I'm great. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me back again.
Good to have you back here. And this is, learning your story and how this all came about. And this all came from one technique. It's called the Alexander technique, devised by FM Alexander so far back, like 100 and something years, or close to, right? Where he developed this?
Right, over 150 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why do you think more of us have not heard of this technique and Alexander?
That's a really great question, Steve, and I'd say it's a really great tragedy why more people haven't heard about it. Maybe bad marketing, from either us or FM Alexander himself. I don't know, right? But I think more of us haven't heard of it because the thing that makes the Alexander technique so profound, it's also the thing that makes it hard to describe. And so perhaps one of the problems, one of the challenges that the Alexander technique faces, and hopefully in our conversation, we're doing something that helps bring some more light to it, is that because it's so profound, it's hard to kind of, get your finger on it exactly, But simply what we're doing is we're working on helping your individual coordination, your overall coordination in this moment and that moment. And our understanding that stimuli in every single moment of every single day is either positively or negatively impacting our coordination, right? And so, we're working on helping improve that coordination. And by doing that, we're also secondarily helping you improve your back pain, right? Get out of that back pain by improving that coordination, which you do have an indirect control over. You do have a means of improving that coordination, right? That's the thing that's so exciting about the technique. But it's also something that's rather difficult to describe in words in a way that people are like, oh yeah, I get that. I understand that, right? I think that might be part of the reason why it's not as well known. Maybe it's why it's not taken over the world. It's because it is harder to describe.
Do you feel that when we have challenges, let's say knee pain, whatever it may be, let's say you went jogging for the first time in a long time, maybe you pulled a little hamstring or something's going on there, and it's still lingering, maybe a couple of weeks, you still feel a little twinge there.
Right.
But now you compensate in other parts of your body. You don't even know you still feel that pain. It's still there. I mean, if you're aware and intentional of it, you might move your legs like, it's still there. But you've made up for it by being off balance in other parts of your body. Is that a lot of what we're referring to here? How things can transcend to another part of the body and then, cause even more issues?
There's no doubt. What might really cook your noodles, Steve, is that maybe the reason we ran into that knee pain is because we had those underlying tensions and imbalances to begin with.
That knee pain is for me, and that's exactly how I got it. And it was me saying for the first time in a long time, I'm going jogging. I know I didn't properly stretch. I know I didn't just jog on a flat surface. We call them the Seven Sisters where I live. It's the highest point of Long Island, where it's 7 big hills. Going up is coming down is just as hard as going up, because you got to put your brakes on as you're going down. And then I ended that jogging session, was like, yeah, my knee's like a little funky there. And it's still lingering, it's getting better. I haven't jogged since, but I almost feel that I'm having issues elsewhere, back pain and things like that, because I'm making up for it, for the knee pain.
Yeah.
Does that sound reasonable?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we get pain, we get hurts, right? We try to protect ourselves from the pain, right? Maybe we twist our back in response to, oh, I want to avoid that thing here. I want to avoid that thing there, for sure.
So let's go back to what you said a second ago. Maybe going on the jogging journey, there was stress and things like that leading into it. Let
Yeah.
put the microscope on that, please.
Well, yeah, absolutely. See, that's the thing that's hard about tension, right? And this is the thing that F.M. Alexander, the creator of the technique, noticed for himself when he was working through his own tension patterns, right? Is that the habits of tension in which we carry are so invisible to us in a lot of the times. Right? A lot of the times, the habits of tension that we're carrying, they're just mapping themselves that, well, this is just the normal way of walking. This is just the normal, healthy way of being, right? We don't tend to be privy to these tensions. Right? I certainly wasn't when I first started learning the Alexander technique. We don't necessarily become privy to those tensions until they become something catastrophic, like, oh my gosh, I went running and now I blew up my knee, right? Or, oh my gosh, I went playing the classical guitar and all these problems with my arm now, right? A lot of the times we don't know the tensions we're carrying
Mm.
until they start to release. And I know that sounds really weird, but there's a technical reason for that too, right? And one of the technical reasons for that is that if you get in the habit of excessively tightening a muscle or a muscle group or an entire fascial network, for example, right? You can think that you got this rope of muscle and it's used to being too tight like so when it should be kind of like so. Well, within that muscle, there's all these little muscles, there's all these little nerve spindles within the muscle. And if there's too much tension in there, they're not able to properly communicate to the brain they're essentially cut off from communication, if that makes sense, right?
Sure.
So the only way that you can experience the fact that you were holding those tensions is after you've let go of the tension. So how on earth do you ever get present to changing those things from a like feeling it out kind of thing? There's no way. And that's what FM Alexander was coming across, right? He was trying to feel his way out of these troubles, but these troubles were invisible in a sense. Technically speaking, that was absolutely true. They were invisible because those tensions were cutting off communications on those deeper nerve spindles to the brain. He wasn't able to be experientially aware of it. I wasn't able to be experientially aware of my tensions until, oh, yeah, this lady puts her hand on my neck and it starts to free up and I'm walking better and I'm like, oh, there's this release and tension here. I didn't know I was carrying that tension. There's this release in my eye. I'm seeing better. I didn't know I was carrying. Who becomes aware of the tension they're carrying in their eyes? Right? It's only until you start being curious about it, right? It's only until you start thinking in a particular way that helps re-educate these processes and gives you a new experience. Then you're like, oh, I didn't realize that. Now I do realize it. Now I can do something about it, Steve. That's the thing that's so exciting about the Alexander technique.
Can you walk us through these not tensions, but the journey of where the tensions can, and even be hypothetical. Let's say you had something from your past, maybe you're hanging on to, maybe you're not even aware of it, and how that tension can affect you today. And, chronic back pain, whatever it might be, just go hypothetical.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't even need to go hypothetical. I use myself as an example, right?
Sure.
When I was going through school, and I'll adjust this so you can see, I just got in the habit of sitting like this when I was in school, and from the side, I just got in the habit of sitting like this when I was in school.
I'm sitting like that right now, Travis.
You're sitting, yeah. Well,
I'm not kidding.
And we all do it. We all do it, Fred. I mean, every single one of us gets in this habit, and it's neither right nor wrong. It just happens, right? And so, we get in a habit like this. And let's say I stay in this habit for hours upon hours when I'm going to school, right? And notice right here, friend, notice what this habit, there's this concaving of my chest that's happening. But notice what that habit is doing in my neck here, Steve. Right? Do you see what that's doing to my head relationship in relationship to my spine?
Mm-hmm.
FM would call this the tightening of the neck and the head getting pulled back in space and down against the spine. Now, I mean, I didn't know I was doing this when I was in school. I just did it, right? And that habit became old familiar, right? And then that old familiar started moving itself into every movement that I did. And so that's how habits operate, Steve, especially habits of tension. Like, we get ourselves in the habit of sitting in a particular way through no fault of our own, other than we just didn't notice it, right? Then that starts to compound, starts to reinforce, and then it starts to abstract itself across all your movements. Right, so if I get in the habit of tightening my neck and pulling my head back and down when I'm sitting, and I don't become aware of it, and it just becomes familiar to me, it just becomes old familiar, then I'm going to start doing that when I'm walking. To a lesser degree, of course, but it's still going to be present to some degree. And I want to get in the habit of doing that and bringing that a little bit in my action of speaking, for example, Steve. Right? That's what F.M. Alexander noticed for himself, is that this habit of tension that he called the tightening of the neck, the pulling the head back and down, and the compressing of the entire spine and the whole back system, that it didn't localize. Like for him, it was something that was wanting to happen in everything he did when he said yes to any kind of stimuli. Right? Stimuli is one of those things that promotes action. It's a healthy thing, right? But if we get in the habit of those tensions, the stimuli comes to action, we're going to take those habits of tension into the action, right? It's neither good nor bad. It's just if we get in the habit of that unhealthy tension, it's going to be carried. It's going to be moved. It's going to reinforce itself. Right? I mean, that's for a simple way of saying it. That's why when we're young, we tend to be up here, and when we're old, we don't tend to be up here. Right? We tend to get down here. It's because we just get into those habits of tension over time.
So
habits of tension that we can overcome.
That can last. I mean, you're referring to being back in school,
Yeah.
and those habits of tension. How did that have a role in your later life and present challenges?
Yeah. Well, I'll show you. So when I got in the habit of generally coordinating myself like so when I was sitting, well, when you play the classical guitar, Steve, you sit to play the classical guitar.
So now you're in the same position you were back in school.
So now I'm doing this. See, they teach you specific techniques when you play the classical guitar, but, nobody teaches you the specific technique on how to coordinate your general coordination around these specific coordinations that you're doing. So I'm doing this. And all the time I'm doing this, Steve, there's all this downward pressure that's being exerted on me, right? And this downward pressure here, guess what it's putting pressure on unduly? Not only my neck, but it's also putting undue pressure on my shoulders. And because it's putting undue pressure on my shoulders, it's going to cause compensations in my elbow. And that's going to cause compensations in my thumb. And that's exactly what happened to me, Steve. I mean, everything here just got locked down. I got radiating pain here in my elbow compensating for the lockdown. I got a jumpy thumb compensating because this whole line was choked off.
Wow.
And, I was just in the habit of doing that. And, if I knew I was doing it, I wouldn't have done it, right? But I didn't know I was doing it. I didn't know ultimately, that was just how I was. That's just what I did, Steve. It was old familiar, right? It felt right. It felt like the right thing, the right way of sitting, right? It felt like the right way of moving. It felt like the right way of sitting on the guitar, if that makes sense, right? And so,
wow, I'm amazed. I'm amazed, Travis, that it took that long. From from school, when you were attending school, did it slowly kind of creep in where you
Oh
started
yeah.
feeling pain and then yelling, I don't know what that is. Must be fatigue from playing. That's why my thumb is jumpy or whatever it might be, not realizing that it was habits of tension.
Great question, Steve. Yeah, I mean, you're looking back at life, right? Yeah, I was cracking my neck a lot when I was in school, right? So that was sign one. Maybe something was off. And then, I go to school and yeah, you get unhealthy, let's say, performance anxiety. You know, when I was preparing for school, I'd have months to prepare a piece. Now I only have a couple weeks to prepare a piece before I have to go perform it, right? So the game got leveled up. And you
Hmm.
go out there on stage and you feel this just incredible stage fright, which is also a product of those tension patterns. This incredible stage fright. Right? And, then you're practicing 4 to 5 hours a day, trying to
Hmm.
prepare, trying to cram things in, let's say, right? And you're cramming your body into bigger, smaller, and smaller boxes. You keep trying to cram, right? It's all about getting the thing done, right? And it never was about how am I using myself in the attempt of getting this thing done? Right? How am I coordinating myself in the attempt of getting this thing done?
Hmm.
That's the beautiful and exciting thing that the technique does, right? Is it gives you this permission. Just wait a second and remember something. Remember something, Steve. That whatever it is that you're doing in this moment and that moment, it's you that has to do it. It's your body that has to carry out the activity, right? So when you're going on that jog, or if I'm going and playing the classical guitar, it's your body that has to go out for the jog. It's my body that has to go play the classical instrument, right? So, and yet practically never do we actually consider, how are we using our body when we're going on that run? How am I using my body when I'm playing this phrase of music, right? It's all about play the music well. Get to that 5K, just get through this moment, whatever it is, right? It's rarely about what kind of excesses am I bringing into my head, neck, and back in this action. It's never about the fact that it's me that has to do it. What's the best means? How am I going to coordinate myself the best that I can in this moment or that moment? What's the means of coordinating myself to the best of my ability in this moment and that moment? How can I use this stimuli to improve my coordination in this moment? We don't think that way. At least I didn't think that way. I don't know about you, Steve. Did you think that way?
No. And
Right.
what I'm connecting here is how our habits of tension from our past eventually catch up with us. And I've done many podcasts on trauma. And that is, I call it the little T trauma, the big T trauma. It goes back to your childhood. It could be the littlest thing that happened, but you hold on to it. And subconsciously that pilots you as an adult, but that also brings tension, stress, anxiety. Now, imagine what it's doing to your body. This could go back like you when you were in school, sitting a certain way. Same with me. I have the worst posture. I know it. as I'm talking about, I got to sit up straight because I'm mindful of it. But
Right.
I don't want to say the damage has already been done, but the habits of tension have already been placed in there. So I'm imagining when we try to do maybe different activities or as you get older, these things present later in life, i.e. the knee. I guarantee what you're saying, that traces back to something else. That's not a new, like, oh, it just happened, new injury, whatever. Mm-mm. I know it. I can feel it. My intuition tells me there's a connection, like you said, to it. Haven't figured out what it is, but sometimes maybe that's irrelevant. It's just make it better. How do you know if you're a candidate for this modality, this technique?
If you're alive and breathing, you're a candidate for the modality of the Alexander technique.
Okay. All right.
Because the Alexander technique just helps you with you, right? It helps you with your general coordination wherever you are in life. And by helping you with your general coordination wherever you are in life, over time, what that does is it helps you with these things that you're facing. with a breathtakingly simple way of doing it. It's breathtakingly simple. It's just simply a matter of changing how you think in movement.
So there's
Just
many,
thought,
many different aspects to it. Can you give us an example, maybe a quick tip? I mean, very, very surface level here in just, a couple of minutes we have left.
yeah, sure. Well, let's start with this principle of awareness. Take a moment here, Steve, and just be curious about the fact that you have a head up here and that you have 2 feet down on the floor. Get curious about the fact that you're a 3-dimensional being. Just notice the front, the back, the length, and the width. Now we're having a conversation right now. That's a stimuli. So what if I and you and everybody listening just gives themselves a moment to wait? Just think this word, wait. Notice how that word moves through your body. And you can give that word again. I don't have to do anything right now. Right, Steve. And notice what that does for your body. Notice where the top of your neck is. I'm going to point to it for you, right in between your ears and way behind the bridge of your nose. And what I'm noticing for you is you changed yourself there a little bit. Now, what if you just think, I can leave the top joint of my neck alone? Don't try to do it. Right. Have this idea of noticing, leaving that alone. Where's the ease within that whole body of mine? It must be easy. I'm breathing somewhere. Notice how that changes your body. Wait again. Invite some freedom in your neck and your throat. Just think it and leave it be. Don't think that hard. All right. Now, while we were doing that, Steve, did you notice anything changing in your body?
A quiet calm. It's hard to
Yeah.
explain. Almost like like if you take powder and you put it in water, you mix it up, maybe some flavor. I feel like it all settled.
It neutralizes things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It gets you back to center, right?
Yes.
So that's the point. Before we can make any positive changes in our postural network, we first have to stop doing the interference that's getting in our way, right? We first have to slow that down. We first have to take our foot off that gas pedal. Right? That's what that is. FM called this the principle of inhibition, right? Which is simply pause and wait. Stop. Stop before you do the action. Wait before you do the action. Think about the ease that you want in your body before you do the action. And is it going to get you all the way? No, but it's going to get the ball moving slightly in the right direction.
Well, it almost sounds that, and we're just about out of time. It almost sounds like you're being intentional about the action as opposed to, let me just do it.
Exactly. Intentional versus reactional. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
exactly.
Inherent in the intention, not that you overthink it, but you're thinking about it. So maybe you tap the brakes. Like you said, wait, what's the rush? Let's get into this activity, whatever it might be. Think about where you are. Think about being grounded, and just a different way of looking at things. Final question, breath work. Proper breathing techniques. Is that part of the Alexander technique?
Yeah. FM FM, before he started to advertise himself as a person who heals back pain and whatnot, he was called Dr. Breath. He didn't call himself that.
Wow.
But everybody called him that, Dr. Breath, because what he found was that when you relieve and you release those undue pressures, the atmospheric event of breathing just happens very automatically and effortlessly. So absolutely. It's fundamentally, his birthplace was a breathing technique to help him with his breathing and his vocalization troubles as an actor. And then it was learned. It helps people with all these other things.
Wow. This made it even more clear today.
Good.
In our conversation. Thank you for bringing this to the forefront, the Alexander technique. Beautiful. Like, I didn't hear of it before I met you, but I was aware of things we hold, emotion and tensions that we hold. And that goes back to, energy work and that trauma situation that all of us have, according to therapists and psychologists, that's in us, in our subconscious. But that's just all part of the tension that we're holding. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. It's coming from somewhere. And this is a way to alleviate it. Travis, how do we find you?
You can find me at www.bodymindbalanceco.com. Let's make life awesome together, Steve.
Absolutely. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here today.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.